Greetings, I'm Shad, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the magic in Doctor Strange. Also, heads up, spoilers of course, so if you haven't seen Doctor Strange, yes, there'll be spoilers in this video. Now, I really enjoyed Doctor Strange, but I was very hesitant in going into this movie because I was very worried that they could have butchered magic, which is so often handled incorrectly in so many movies. Now, this is actually something that I've done a fair bit of study on because I am a writer, and anyone who is interested in writing and understanding how magic should be used properly in writing, I highly recommend, you have to go read Sanderson's Laws of Magic. These are laws of magic written by New York Times bestselling author Brandon Sanderson, and out of any writer I have ever come across, Brandon Sanderson has the best understanding of magic and has used it to the most awesome level out of any other fiction I have ever come across. This includes Harry Potter, this includes Lord of the Rings, hands down the best. And I'll be applying this standard to Doctor Strange to give to you my opinion if it handles magic right, because this Doctor Strange really is the very first time Marvel is really diving into the magic theme. Yes, Thor kind of skirts along that. They try and sell it as science a lot in Thor, but certainly Loki's powers come into the realm of magic. You see, this is the thing. Magic is a plot device. It's a tool that needs to be used with care and consideration by the writer, and if not, what you create is deus ex machina. What is that? Well, that is when things unrelated to the plot or the choices of the characters come in and save the day. It's in relation to plot holes, and all up it makes a very unsatisfying story. Now, there are small examples of deus ex machina, and then there are very large ones, but even the small ones can be used and abused so often that it just it annoys you and it ruins the story. For instance, when the hero is in danger and the bad guy is about to swing down and kill them, suddenly someone out of nowhere comes in and stops the bad guy and saves the hero. Oh my goodness, aren't they lucky that that other person just happened to be in the exact right position to save the hero when he needed to be saved? It's a plot hole, it's sloppy writing, and the reason why is because in reality, things like that rarely ever happen. And so if you want a story to be realistic and immersive, you need to avoid things like this. And magic is often used in this way. Oh no, I'm about to lose, everything is about to, be destroyed, the world is lost. But wait, I have magic and I'll pull a new spell or use of the magic out of my butt and save the day. So the way you use magic is actually directly tied into just general good plot. You can take magic out of the picture and the same rules will apply. How often in movies do you see a hero in a fight scene who has been getting absolutely trashed by an opponent, and it has been established the enemy is better, stronger, quicker, more talented, the hero should not be able to beat this person, but then he just digs down deep and suddenly he's able to beat him. Why? Because he really, really wants to. So my big fear in Doctor Strange is that the writers were going to make the classic mistakes that you so often see in so many movies, because magic suddenly gives almost a free license to be lazy. We have a problem? Well, we can solve it with magic. The way that Brandon Sanderson says you solve this problem with magic being used in deus ex machina just to serve the plot and it can solve anything, and I totally agree with him on this, is give the magic rules. And when you give magic rules, even if the rules are nonsensical, like an act of true love can thaw a frozen heart, if you remain true to that rule, you can have that magic resolve issues in plot and have it be satisfying. Then it doesn't feel like, oh, it was saved because of magic. No, it was saved because, oh, the magic is able to do this in this specific circumstance, and if we're able to make that circumstances happen, we can then resolve issues. And so I was delighted to see that Doctor Strange, for the most part, did this. And that's why it worked in the movie. The movie was great and I loved it. The magic in Doctor Strange had rules. Whether you were aware of it or not, okay, they had rules and they established those rules by showing how the magic worked and then remaining true to it. For instance, one of the rules they established, big spells or magic can only be held within artifacts. Okay, that's important to know. And it's actually quite a cool rule. Okay, big magic, big spells, they can only be held and used within artifacts or objects. What it means then is that the magic users should not be able to whip out huge spells out of their butt. No, they need to rely on objects, like the rings that make portals. And so, just with this, several other rules come in extension to that. One, you need to be holding the object to be able to use it, for the most part. But the rings that make portals, yes, you actually need to be holding it to make a portal, and if you lose the ring, you can't make portals. That makes a significant limitation, and also it creates a rule that can be satisfied. Now the hero just can't teleport away from the bad guy whenever he wants. He needs to be holding the ring, and if he loses the ring, oh no, he can't just pull out a spell from his butt to save himself if he's in trouble. And there's a part in the movie where they're actually fighting over getting a hold of one of these rings so they can make a portal, and it works really well because of that. The other thing is that they establish that Doctor Strange only has a limited number of spells, which works really, really well. This means we, the audience, can get familiar with the spells he knows, and then if he remains true to those spells and doesn't whip something out, oh, I had this, I learnt this ages ago, but I've never used it in the plot. No, it establishes he has a few spells, and we can kind of list them off, and I might miss one or two, but he can make a fire energy-like whip thing, which is one of his main offensive spells. They can make magical kind of shield things to protect them from blows. They can teleport with rings. They can push themselves into the mirror dimension. He can also project his astral form. He has the cloak of levitation. And then as well, he can manipulate time. But only as what it seems to be with the amulet of Agamemno, whatever it is. And then with each of these spells that we get familiar with, that we know Doctor Strange can perform, we then get to see the lengths and limits of what they can achieve. We see that this fire whippy thing can't chop through walls, but it can hurt people, and it can tie people up, and it can block things. So by giving Doctor Strange a limited repertoire of spells, and giving those spells defined abilities, the magic in it worked fine, and they didn't use it to resolve plot in any unsatisfying way. It doesn't mean it was perfect. There are a couple of cases where rules were established and then they weren't followed. For instance, messing with time causes bad consequences. Well, every single thing that we saw, every use of manipulating time that we saw in the movie, didn't make bad consequences. In fact, it more seemed to imply that actually manipulating time is quite useful and we should do it more often. Maybe there'll be future consequences in future movies. But from what they showed in this movie, manipulating time is pretty awesome. It also kind of establishes that there's never going to be any problem that Doctor Strange won't be able to solve. And that is a larger underlining problem, because even if the world is destroyed, he can just reverse time and try again. So with this power available, Earth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, pretty safe from being destroyed. Unless, of course, you kill Doctor Strange. But then, why can't someone else perform that magic spell? Who knows? And now I'm going to talk about the main spell that was used to save the day, resolve all the bad things that were happening in the movie. So again, big spoiler warning, and stop now if you haven't seen it or don't want to hear it. Yes, it was a new use of this spell, and so it kind of seemed like, here's a spell out of my butt, but the thing is, it was actually obeying some of the rules that they established in the movie, which is why it works so well. One of the main things that was repeated several times is that the bad guy, from the dark dimension, time doesn't exist for him. And they mention it several times, which is why people can become immortal if they suck on his power. Now, yes, that is kind of silly, because being able to suck on a power of where time doesn't exist shouldn't stop aging. It should stop time for that person, and they wouldn't be able to move or make choices. But anyway, we won't go too deep into that. But Doctor Strange brings time into the dark dimension to battle the big bad guy. And so there was the rule. Time shouldn't exist, but he brings time into it. Now, there is some funny things like, because technically, wouldn't Doctor Strange have been able to do that in a dimension with time? Yes, I'd say he could, but maybe this is why the Dark One, the bad guy, who I forget his name, couldn't break Doctor Strange's spell because he had no experience or contact with time at all. And so in this sense, Doctor Strange was using an element or a power that the bad guy, even though he was orders of magnitude more powerful than Doctor Strange, he still couldn't break that spell because it was something so foreign to him that he couldn't comprehend or touch it or do anything with it. So yes, the use of that spell worked really well. And they established it previously that he could turn back time with the apple thing. There was some kind of new elements of the spell, like him dying reset the time. We never saw that again, so that was kind of pulled out of his butt, but you know, we can forgive that. And we can also kind of forgive the fact that it seems like Doctor Strange is retaining his memory from each time he dies, where if it was really resetting time, his memory should be wiped. But overall, I loved it, and it worked. And I'll point out a missed opportunity that could have been really cool, and that is that they don't establish how long Doctor Strange is actually battling this evil other dimensional being, because it would be awesome if they actually said he was battling this bad guy for 100 years, and over that period of time, he perfected the spells that he was able to use, and this could explain so well why Doctor Strange is now suddenly so powerful with this magic, even though he's only had it for a couple of months. Well, the answer is, he was battling the bad guy for several hundred years, which makes him the most experienced and powerful sorcerer in the world. But they didn't capitalize on that opportunity. Now, with everything that I've said, there's one part in the movie which gives me great fear for the future of Doctor Strange, and that is the post-credit scene with Thor. And it is a classic example of everything that you do not want to do with magic, and they do it, and it made me cringe. So the worst thing that you want to do with magic is, here is X problem, and magic can always solve it. No, you can only solve the problems with the magic within the scope of what you have already established the magic is capable of performing. And so if X problem falls outside of that scope, you can't resolve that issue with the magic until you change the problem, okay? Bring it into the realms of what the magic can do. And so in the post-credit scenes, we have a problem. Thor runs out of beer. And so, how do they solve it? Magic! Doctor Strange just kind of winks his eye, waves his hand or whatever, and the mug suddenly fills up with beer again. And oh, that is the worst. Don't ever do this with magic, please. I hope it's just a comical thing. And they'll leave it there and they won't do it again, because that is the worst type of way you can use magic, where random problem comes up and we would just solve it because magic. And so they're kind of showing that Doctor Strange has this ability that he can just do whatever he wants because magic, and that's bad, okay? Very, very bad. Let us be very cautious about Doctor Strange's future because of that, but I will still have cautious optimism. And so there you go. I just wanted to share my thoughts about Doctor Strange and how magic should be used in plot. Why? Because I'm a writer and I write magic in my stories. And so this is something very close to my heart. I hope you have enjoyed, and until next time, farewell.